residential property buy, is it better to buy a home or is it better to buy an investment property? Well, those are two very different but related questions. When you buy a home, you're doing it because you want comfort, security, you want a certain lifestyle, you want to look after your family, and of course you want to capital gain at the end of the day. When you buy an investment property, this is about wealth creation. This is about income streams, this is about rental, this is about passive income. So you're really talking about two different things. But in order to consider whether the investment property route's for you, think about the pros and cons, and here are some of the major ones. On the plus side, it's a great way to get into the residential property market because you've effectively got two people helping you pay off your mortgage, yourself and the renter, which is a good thing. The other thing is, it's not always the case, but the investment property you buy could be the home of the future for you. Now, of course, when you buy an investment property, you should always buy it from the point of view of the renter, but there might be some situations where at the end of the day, this is a home you want, and the renters basically help buy that for you. The other thing to consider is that it's a good tax-effective investment with negative gearing rules. You can offset any losses against your assessable income, which helps bring down the cost of the investment. And finally, what a lot of people don't know is that when you buy an investment property as your first property purchase, it doesn't necessarily stop you being eligible from the first home owner's grant. There are certain rules, but basically you could buy an investment property and then 2 or 3 years later go out and buy your first home, and if the legislation was still the same, you would still be eligible for the grant, so that's a good thing. On the slightly negative side, the first thing to remember is it's a huge commitment. You're talking about a long-term loan, and you're talking about probably having to put in tens of thousands of dollars of your own money because lenders these days are looking for some form of deposit. So it's quite a big and expensive commitment. It's expensive to get into the market, and on top of that you've got stamp duty and other fees to pay as well. Another important consideration is that you will have to make good any repairs and maintenance when they arise. So if you're the homeowner, you might be able to delay that while you save up for it, because it's only you that are suffering, but in the case of a renter, you'd be obliged to fix any problems straight away. So it's really important to make sure you've got spare cash to be able to do that. And also, buying residential property is not riskless. For example, prices can go down as well as up, and so you need to be very careful where on the property cycle you buy and in what suburbs you buy. So you want to make sure that wherever you buy, there's a greater chance of prices going up and down. On top of that, the mortgage is going to have to be paid whether there's a rental there or not. So, you could find yourself in some difficulty if you're paying rent as well as a mortgage. So you really need to be careful about that. The other thing to think about is on a state-by-state basis, you may actually lose some of the state benefits. So some of the specific grants and concessions provided by the states, they don't really care what sort of property you buy. In other words, whether you buy an investment or a place to live, as long as you buy a property. So you might find that by buying an investment property, you may lose your eligibility there. So you really do need to check with your relative state to make sure that you can still claim in the future. Or if you can't, just take that into account when you make a purchase decision. So in answering the questions about whether you should buy a home or an investment property, 3 key things: be clear about your objectives, be clear about your investment strategy, make sure that property's the way for you to go, and finally, do your sums to make sure that you can afford it. I hope that helps. Buying a home and buying an investment property are two different things, so you need to be really clear about your personal investment objectives. Be very mindful of the risks and rewards of owning a property, and before you buy anything, make sure you prepare a detailed budget to ensure you can afford it.